Hello and welcome back to the Entertainment Vortex. Today we are at Brennan Theaters watching I, Tonya. Now I realize this movie came out a little while ago, but it got 3 Academy Award nominations, and that really made us pay attention. Plus, we really didn't want to see 50 Shades, so I, Tonya it is. And let me tell you, I am so glad we saw this movie because this is an amazing movie. Not only is it funny, but it's informative. If you're old enough to have been around when the circus of a story was going on back in 1994, as I was, you remember a very specific narrative that was being given, which of course was Tonya Harding called a hit on Nancy Kerrigan so that she can win the Olympic gold. Now, I'm not going to give away what's said in the movie, but let me tell you, the facts are not exactly what you think they are. That's part of the reason this movie is so fascinating, is because not only do they tell it in a very interesting and dynamic and hilarious way, but they give a lot of details that no one really knew. You get testimonials from a lot of different people. You get testimonials from her mom, horrible person. You get testimonials from bodyguard, her husband, the hardline guy. You get tons and tons of people's perspective on it. And this is all supposedly based on the interviews that they did with Tonya Harding and Jeff Gillooly. It's very interesting to see the dueling opinions, and there's a couple points where they say, you know, this is how it happened, and then the other person says that's not how it happened, or there's even a scene where it gets interrupted halfway through where she turns and looks at the cameras, this has never happened.
I am part of that generation that this happened while I was alive, but I was pretty young at the time. It wasn't something that I was happening and I was super knowledgeable about in '94 when it happened. I was 5 at the time. When it came to this type of a story, I needed to do a little bit of outside research for myself before we sat down and actually watched this film. I found a lot of really interesting things that this movie does so well. The main points of this story really reflect something that was different than what was presented to everybody in the public at that time, but there was a lot of information that was out there and that was accessible to people that it took a little bit of time to surface. Because of that, basically someone has been turned into this social pariah and been forced to scrape to get by. It's really interesting the way that they chose to portray the characters and the way that they gave pretty long leash to some of these actors to kind of go out and figure out what these characters are about.
If you've seen the movie Goodfellas, you're very familiar with this idea in film. And that is the idea that the main character looks at the camera and tells you what's going on. So they're narrating, narration stops, and they start talking directly to you. That fourth wall break, I always love that. They've done it in a lot of stuff since Goodfellas, but Goodfellas was the first time I saw it. And this does it masterfully. It's done a number of times through the movie, and every time it just adds a punch to what's being said. It really gives that emphasis to what's going on. And I absolutely love that they added that to this movie. It makes the movie more tongue-in-cheek. It makes the movie more lighthearted, even though it really is talking about some pretty bad stuff that happened by some of the stupidest people I've ever seen in my life. It is extremely entertaining, and that's, I think, the key for this movie.
As Nick previously stated in his review, this movie is getting a lot of comparisons to my favorite film of all time, Goodfellas. I can see with some of the cinematography and everything, you know, where they're drawing those comparisons. For me, I don't like to stack movies against each other like that because it's something that no movie will ever live up to that hype for me. That being said, this movie does an excellent job of taking, you know, classic styles that have been laid out by, you know, excellent directors like Martin Scorsese and, you know, Spielberg, and finding interesting little niches and little techniques that they can use that have, you know, potentially been used before, but they kind of spin them and make them their own. That's where I feel this movie shines. It's telling a story that a lot of people recognize in a way that's original and has so much entertainment value packed in. When movies are able to bring that entertainment value, you've got my money, you've got me in the seat, and that's something that I appreciate, especially watching movies this time of year. You know, when sometimes there are things that you end up watching that you may not necessarily have been super stoked about or didn't turn out the way that you anticipated, and this movie is as advertised. It's got several laugh out loud moments. It has these great character performances, and the way that they talk to each other and the way that they banter is something that I don't think that I've ever seen on film. It's real people, and they're maybe not the brightest bulbs in the box, but it's definitely entertaining to watch, and I will definitely watch again.
The other part you have to talk about when talking about this movie is the acting. Margot Robbie plays Tonya Harding, and she is fantastic. She got the mannerisms down, the way of speaking. You feel like this is really her, and being as anybody that was alive around that time has seen so much of Tonya Harding, you know exactly how she carries herself and speaks, because she was in the news every 13 seconds back then. You can really tell that Margot Robbie took the time to really become Tonya Harding, and that's super impressive. Even more impressive than Margot Robbie's performance is Allison Janney's performance as her mom. I mean, this just steals the show. Not only is the character just pretty much the devil walking around, every time she's on screen, it's all about her. I mean, you're fixated on her acting and the way she's portraying this character. Then you get to the credits, see a clip of the actual mother, and go, holy crap, that was accurate. That I think is the most mind-blowing part of this movie, is that when you actually look at the real people and the real interviews, you realize that this wasn't exaggerated for comedic purposes. These people were stupid. That makes this even more enjoyable, that the story is so based in truth that they didn't have to stretch things all over the place to make it entertaining. It is more actual events and less inspired by actual events.
There are some other characters that I feel like, because I did a little bit of studying and a little bit of research, really stand out as people that really like found these people and, you know, basically just became them. The biggest one for me is Sebastian Stan. If you watch videos of Jeff Kaluli, Sebastian Stan was Jeff Kaluli. Like, the voice was absolutely pitch perfect. The way that he dressed and his style and the things that he did and his little weird tics and mannerisms, those things were captured perfectly in this performance. That's not something that's easy to do. I mean, if you look at someone like a Gary Oldman who's able to slip in and out of people, that's something that takes a lot of years and a lot of craft building. And I feel like this is a great place for Sebastian Stan to be. He has a fairly young career. You know, he does have a lot of success with, you know, the Marvel movies and that sort of thing. This may be a step forward in pushing him towards what he can really be as an actor.
The role of the mother deserves the biggest push. If any of them is going to win the award, it should be her. But I feel all three are absolutely deserving. Margot Robbie, of course, nailed it. I would love to see this get some serious awards. So I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. I was super entertained. This was actually my second time seeing the movie in the last week, and I enjoyed it the second time around as well. I highly suggest watching this before it leaves theaters. Being in that crowd where everybody's laughing with you definitely adds to the movie. Plus, with all the Oscar nods, you're probably getting a bigger surge of people going to see it again, so this is your chance before it leaves theaters.
Overall, I'd give this movie a 9.5 out of 10. While it isn't exactly perfect, it is an excellent film. It deserves all of the accolades that it could potentially get up to this point, and I'm glad that I saw it, and I'll definitely see it again.
So I'm curious to know, what is your favorite based on a true story movie? Go ahead and put that in the comment section below. Don't forget that we have shirts available now. There's a link in the description for that if you're interested. They have the Entertainment Vortex logo on there. Don't let the timer on the page fool you. That's just a countdown of when the next print run's going to happen. It will reset and they will be available going forward. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do. We give you a minimum of 4 videos every week, including a Funko Pop video, a movie review, and 2 gaming videos. Plus, all kinds of surprises on the way. We hope you'll follow us into the Vortex. We'll see you next time.